Right then, so for our two-piece block we're doing half square triangles. Now there's lots of ways of doing half square triangles. We may explore different ways as we go along, but have a go at different methods because you'll find the one that's best for you. I always find it's easier for me if I do them larger and then trim them back to size. It allows for any distortion in the fabric and it gives you a more accurate block to finish with. The method that I'm using today is going to give you two blocks. So keep one and put it to one side for your quilt and keep the other one safe, and that will come into use later on. So our finished blocks are going to be 6.5 inches. So what I'm going to do is you need two pieces of fabric, and what I'm doing, they coordinate, but two obvious differences in patterns from both sides. So you could do a plain and a patterned, dark or light, anything that you would like, just to differentiate the two halves. So what I'm going to do is cut a 7.5 inch block. So that side is straight. So I'm going to line up there. I'll just take that off and then there we go. And turn that around and just finish the top side. Because we're going to be sewing on the bias, it's also a good idea to have starched your fabric. It just gives it more stability when we come to use it. So this one will need trimming down. So we've got a straight edge on that one, so that's fine. So take that in slightly. So line that up. Where I've cut it from previous projects, I know that size straight, so turn that round and line that up there, that one there. I've just got that edge to trim off, and there I have my two pieces of fabric. So if you're using a dark and a light, you want to be doing this on the lighter one. Make sure that you've got it on the reverse of your square, and you're going to draw a line from corner to corner. Now you can use, it doesn't matter so much what you're going to use because we're going to be cutting along here. This one's water soluble marker, so I'm just going to draw from one side to the other diagonally across. And then we're going to layer that up right sides together, and we're going to take that to the machine and we're going to stitch 1/4 of an inch either side of that line. So I'm going to get the machine set up and get to the machine. Okay, so got to the machine, line up my 1/4 of an inch mark against the edge, and we're going to sew all the way down one side. Need that, pull that through, not even bothering to cut off the thread, onto the other side. And then we're going to sew coming back the other side. take that off, and I'm going to just take that to the cutting table. So once you've sewn either side of your line, you go back to the cutting table and you cut along there, and then you can open it up. And what I'm going to do is press it so it's over to the darker side. Alright, so now that it's been pressed, I can use my 6.5 inch ruler and I'm going to trim those squares up. You will notice on your ruler you have a line that marks the diagonal. So if you rest that on your seam, you'll know that's going to go diagonally across, and then you're going to trim those up. Right, so on the first one I cut my original squares an inch bigger than I needed them, and that left you quite a bit of room to trim back. Once you're more confident about your sewing, then you don't need so much. So I wanted to finish with a 6.5 inch square. So the first one I started off with a 7.5 inch squares to start with. This time I just went up half an inch and did 7 inch squares. So depending on where you are with your sewing and how confident that you feel of getting an accurate stitched line. So there we are, lined up on my seam on the diagonal line on my ruler. Trim that side and across the top, turn it around and do exactly the same on this side. As you can see, just some little trimmings there, and we're left with 2 accurate blocks. So you want to keep one for your quilt, and just keep one to one side. We'll come back to that later on.